she was groaning. She was in pain. There was no noticeable conversation that came from her. But
they wanted to know what she'd seen and what she'd told you.
Exactly. And
there's a woman pinned under giant girders who lost her leg, and they're wanting to know, what did she say? What did she say? So as a police officer, you're saying the feds were acting super guilty.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was. Well, I was told at the time that they were going to have to refute what she was saying, and apparently she was delirious due to her injuries and her losses.
I bet. You know, she'd lost family members again in there. Incredible. Let's talk about Terrence Yeagy. Tell us about this gentleman who was one of the first people, along with you, to respond. Running into the building that had just been devastated, and then what happened to him. Why this is so important.
Well, Terry, first off, was a remarkable young man. He was very likable. I did not work with him shoulder to shoulder in our assignments at the police department. However, I did work a lot of extra jobs and security work with him. Not good friends, but friends enough that, especially after the bombing, I would always tease Terry about, man, you're my hero. You're just my hero.
Yeah, well, he made the cover of Newsweek.
Right. Yeah.
Because he hauled a lot of people out, right?
Yes, sir. And Terry, bless his heart, right off the bat was concerned because there were so many FBI and ATF agents on the scene, even when he drove up.
You drive up and there's feds in their gear running around everywhere. What, 30 seconds after?
Yeah, he showed up just minutes after. Terrence Yeagy was the first officer to respond. He pulls up, and there are FBI agents on scene. The FBI headquarters is 5 miles away. They have no business. Why are ATF agents and FBI agents at the scene of the bombing, sitting there watching what's going on when the first officer to respond pulls up?
Well, they were proud of their work. I mean,
well, there was an operation going on.
Yeah, blowing up some kids in a daycare. That's what tough guys do.
Well, Don, you were given privy information about a surveillance operation by the FBI that was going on at the time, right? Concerning the vehicle description?
Yeah, they always claim that, so when it happens, it was a sting went bad, yeah.
Well, no, quite interestingly, the morning of the bombing, as I was en route downtown, they were simulcasting a 3-vehicle description along with the 7 Persian males that were supposedly occupying these vehicles that they had left on the interstate systems from the Murrah building area. And surprisingly, we were told that these vehicles were still under surveillance and continued to progress.
The FBI said that?
Yes.
So the FBI told the police that they were watching the suspects.
But the building blows up and they don't stop the suspects.
But no, please don't understand. This supposedly was afterwards. This was supposedly suspects of the bombing itself.
Sure, yeah.
That went on through all the morning up until about 1:30. At that point, I had an opportunity to speak to one of the FBI agents that had kind of slowed to take a break and asked him what the status was, and was informed at that point that that was disinformation, that it was designed to throw the press off, and was nothing but disinformation. I became very irate at the time, in that they were broadcasting this to a 5-state area. It was not only throwing all the media off, it was throwing every cop in the world off as well, if this was fictitious information.
Well, the perps want to throw folks off. So Terrence Yeagy pulls up a minute or so after, and it's crawling with FBI and ATF. And then what happens next?
Well, he goes ahead and works with the recovery. From what I understand, over the next few days after that incident, he had started to complain to Janet Reno and to others about the treatment that he was getting from the FBI agents, and also from the fact that there were so many of them on the scene. It was quite concerning to him. We talked a little bit about some of his concerns and some of my concerns, but we both were still, I'd say it still wasn't really that trustworthy even of one another. It was a time where you really didn't know who you could trust. completely or not.
Sure, if you're not a completely unconscious moron, you pull up and it's like watching a guy run out of a bank with a mask on and a bag of money. You know who you pull up and there's feds running around in their full gear right after it happens. You're like, well, what's going on? They're like, oh, nothing. In fact, there were doctors and people there who they would say, patch me up. I was up on the 9th floor, and the doctors are like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You weren't up there. And he's like, well, you're going to end up dead if you don't do what I say. I mean, this death threatening. I just can't imagine people I'm a Fed, and I'm going to death threat police and everybody else because I'm God. I mean, it sounds like a bunch of lunatics.
Yeah, it was interesting, like I said, with Terry, in that when Terry died, he was not treated as a normal police officer. There was no autopsy performed. He of course, was viewed by a medical examiner, and they did complete the death certificate and follow-up reports. But no autopsy, nothing to describe why the injuries that Terry had suffered, where they came from, or what type of injuries those were.
But we do have that. Thanks to Colonel Craig Roberts, going from memory, we do have the basic medical examiner's drawings, and of course, you guys have talked to some of the witnesses and some of the sheriff's department, I know, from the county over that did show up reportedly, and so go over this in detail. The feds are like digging dirt up. Terrence Yeage's obviously been tortured. I mean, as a police officer, go over what happened to him.
Terry had numerous lacerations on his wrist, across his elbows, on both arms. He had a long cut that began just underneath his right ear and extended past his Adam's apple. There was another small hesitation cut on the left side of his throat.
You think that was when they were just threatening him to slit his throat to get the answers of where the stuff was?
Well, I was told by the district attorney when I went to the grand jury that was due to EMTs trying to save Terry's life.
No. And, of course, he'd been dead. Well, I mean, let's go over it. I mean, let's talk about how he died, because, I mean, he was telling his partner, I got feds behind me last time he was heard from, right?
Terry was transporting documents and evidence that he had collected. He called his friend, another police officer, said, let's meet for dinner. As soon as I shake these feds who are following me, we'll meet. Terry went to El Reno. Terry grew up in El Reno, Oklahoma. He knew all the back roads, and his car is found on federal property. El Reno has a federal prison. The reason the federal government was able to come in and take control of the investigation was that his body was found on federal land.
Yeah, so they did that again. Wow.
Exactly. And when he had handcuff marks on his wrists, there was mud packed into his wounds. There was no way he could have drug himself through the mud 1.5 miles through creeks and trees while bleeding, and then decide to shoot himself at an angle at the top of his head and coming out the lower part of his jaw.
Sure, so let me ask this. Cops, everybody shows up. I mean, you talk about the county shows up, and they said, yeah, the feds were covering it up, and the police all just stand around and, well, they killed him. Because all the police we've talked to, yeah, they killed him. And I guess that's just what feds are God. They want to kill cops. Go ahead,
Well, that's what was interesting to me at that point was anytime we had a police officer involved in an automobile accident or anything outside of the city limits, the city still sent investigative officers out to investigate the accident, if nothing else, to supplement whatever agency did do the investigation. With Terry, it was basically our agency just washed their hands of it and turned it completely over to the FBI. And
yeah, whenever a police officer dies in Oklahoma City, there's always an autopsy. A couple years ago, a police officer died in a car wreck, and there was no question about why he had died. He was on duty. He was responding to a call. They still performed an autopsy, yet they find a police officer just a couple years before in a field, cut, bleeding.
A year after he's the hero of Oklahoma City on the cover of Newsweek and Police Officer of the Year.
Shot in the head, and they do not perform an autopsy. Once again, it does not hold up to scrutiny at all.
Well, who was this police chief? I mean, who is either purely wicked or the biggest coward on the planet?
He was Chief Gonzalez was from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He had been on Dallas PD prior to his being hired with Oklahoma City. He really didn't have connections to Oklahoma City and would frequently leave for extended weekends to go play golf in Dallas. really never did feel like he was a portion of our department at all.
So he was just a placeholder.
Yes, sir.
He was also a young patrolman in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very trustworthy person.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if he had any involvement with that, but that is his background.
Kind of like Dan Rather. Okay, continuing here. There's a lot of other points here that are important. Can you tell us about the horse patrol being mobilized for crowd control prior to the bombing?
Yes, sir. Again, that was one of the things that kind of surprised me. The horse patrol basically, through the week, did not patrol any area. They maybe once or twice, one or two of the officers would saddle up and they would go into the stock guards area.
Horses are for special events, right? I mean, big crowds, yeah.
Yes, sir. Interestingly, they had, anytime we did work a big event, they would have the county reserve would also come in and supplement the with horses and manpower, and they would act out together. The morning of the bombing, the horse patrol was going downtown in force. They claim they really don't know why they were going down there. It wasn't necessary for crowd control. They were just going down to work the downtown area. This was about a week before what we were scheduled to have an art festival. That would mandated that they would have had to be there. So it was they were coming up on some time frame where a lot of overtime was going to be required. So it was kind of surprising that they would just out of the blue decide to gather and go downtown to do this quite large horse patrol. There was probably somewhere between 8 to 10 riders and horses that were en route.
Was that order to saddle up given before the bombing?
Yes, sir. They were actually leaving and would have already been downtown by the time the bomb went off, according to one of the supervisors. Had it not been for one of our officers was slow in getting ready, and they were just pulling out of the K-9 Equine Center when the bomb detonated.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to ask you, what do the rank-and-file Oklahoma City police think 16, 17 years after this tragedy that's been used to butcher the Bill of Rights and Constitution? This is another super disgusting thing we have to discuss, but, I mean, it's only going to get worse if we don't wake up to false flag terror. Don Browning, retired Oklahoma City police officer, one of the first on the scene, is our guest, along with one of the filmmakers, Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof. I'm Alex Jones.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro-EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro-EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro-EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro-EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Teraganix.com, spelled Teraganix.com, Teraganix.com. Or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro-EM1, the raw probiotic.
Ready to save while getting prepared? Then you're ready for the winter sale at 21stCenturyGoods.com. Take advantage of the incredible savings on all items at 21stCenturyGoods.com. Portable AM, FM, and shortwave radios from $19.95. American Red Cross emergency radios and Cato radios from $28.95. Solar lanterns from $22.95. Solar flashlights, 2 for $16.95. Hand crank LED hurricane lanterns and flashlights from $8.95. Be sure to check out the flexible solar panels to power your emergency and survival gear. Every order over $75 will receive a solar-powered flashlight absolutely free. So get prepared this winter by visiting 21stCenturyGoods.com. Spelled the number 2, the number 1, ST, CenturyGoods.com. 21stCenturyGoods.com. Or call 866-999-8422. That's 866-999-8422. 21stCenturyGoods.com. Power up your survival.
Introducing a diabetes breakthrough, an easy, natural, organic way to bring relief to diabetics. Introducing MDS Forte, a concentrated super strength extract formulated for those who are looking for relief. What can MDS Forte do for you? MDS Forte reduces glucose levels safely and effectively, reduces cholesterol and triglyceride levels, increases HDL or good cholesterol while reducing LDL or bad cholesterol. MDS Forte reduces A1C, improves eyesight and circulation to the limbs, and helps with weight loss. Is non-toxic, caffeine-free, 100% natural, 100% organic, and comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. Waiting for the side effects disclaimers? With MDS Forte, there are none. Order a 25-day treatment of MDS Forte by calling 213-405-5355, 213-405-5355, or visit bestbloodsupport.com. That's bestbloodsupport.com for MDS Forte, a diabetes breakthrough.
And the sky is gray. You know, I am a father.